Welcome back to the channel. So, I talk a lot about how to do projects around the house, and I don't often talk about, though, why we do them. We do this stuff, we put in the time, the work, the sawdust. We do this because we want to make our house ours. We want to build something of value for our families, and we want to be homeowners, not just people who live in a house. But I'm seeing this new buzz out there about this 50-year mortgage thing, and it made me stop and think. This isn't just another loan product. This is a concept that fundamentally changes what homeownership actually means. And I'm worried it's a trap that turns the American dream of ownership into a 50-year financial nightmare, one that no amount of DIY can fix. So I want to play devil's advocate today and really look at the pro arguments and see if this thing is really what it's cracked up to be. But first we have to even ask, why are we having this conversation? The real problem, I don't believe, is that the loans aren't long enough. It's that the prices are just simply too high. Let's look at the data. From 2010 to 2020, an entire decade of growth and recovery, U.S. home prices rose about 60 or so percent over a 10-year period. And then COVID hit. And from mid-2020 to mid-2022, just 2 years, we see home prices explode by over 40%. And if you let that sink in, the market crammed nearly a decade's worth of price growth into 24 months. And here's the kicker. Those prices, they never really came back down. So now in late 2025, we're in this standoff, and you have sellers that are still anchored to that artificial 2022 price, and you have buyers who, thanks to higher interest rates, can't afford it. So along comes this 50-year mortgage, and this isn't a solution for buyers. This is a gimmick to fix stagnation, I believe. It's a way to let sellers keep their inflated prices by stretching the buyer's payments out over extra generations. Now, to be fair, I've looked at the arguments for this, and there are three big ones. First, we've got the bridge argument. Basically, it goes like this. It says, nobody keeps a loan for 50 years. The average person moves or refinances in 7 to 10 years. This isn't a life sentence. It's just a bridge to get you in the door. The next argument says that it's the only door. Basically, my rent is $3,000. A 50-year loan mortgage is going to be $2,400 for that payment, so I won't be burning up money that way. And then the last one is the appreciation savior. And this is the one that I think that is, it's the finance guy, and they love this, but they say, well, who cares about the loan term? Real estate always goes up. Even if I pay it off slowly, the market appreciation is going to make me rich anyway. And what I want to do now is I want to talk about this for a second. So, because those arguments, they sound tempting, but when you look under the hood, well, the engine's kind of missing. First of all, let's look at point number one, the bridge argument. This idea that you're just going to sell in 7 to 10 years has a little bit of a flaw. On a 50-year note, you're going to build almost zero equity for that first decade. So what happens when you need to sell in 7 years? Well, you haven't built a lot of equity, but you still have to pay 6% in realtor fees and closing costs. Unless the market has exploded in value again, which nobody's predicting, you'll be underwater. You won't just walk away with zero. You'll literally have to bring a check to the closing table just to sell your own house. The second point is the only door argument. I fundamentally disagree with the premise that renting is throwing away money. Okay, so that's the idea. Is the one we were just talking about is that, well, my rent's $3,000. If I can get a house for $2,400, well, I'm still, it's a much better deal. I rented until I was almost 30 years old, and I don't regret a single day of it. I didn't throw money away, or I didn't feel like I was. I bought patience. I bought flexibility. Renting allowed me to wait until I was financially ready to buy. And this 50-year mortgage, well, I feel like it preys on the fear of missing out. It pushes you from a stable renting situation into a high-risk ownership where you're responsible for every broken pipe and the HVAC unit and everything else that's going to happen, but you don't actually get to own any of the house. You're basically just kind of renting from the bank at that point. Now, that final point number 3, the appreciation argument, this is the sneakiest one. And yes, your house is likely going to appreciate. And so in that argument we just used a minute ago, let's talk about that for a second. Your house is going to appreciate. It's not going to be flat. So the idea that you're going to have to bring a check to the closing table, probably not highly likely, because there is going to be some appreciation over 5, 6, 7 years. But here's the thing to think about, okay? Your house is going to appreciate the exact same amount, whether you have a 15-year mortgage, a 30-year, or a 50-year note. The loan doesn't create the value. But with a 50-year loan, you're paying roughly $460,000 more in interest than a standard 30-year loan. And I'm basing this off of about a $400,000 house with around a 6.5% interest rate. And here's the other crazy thing. When you look at this, you can go, well, yeah, my house went up in value, but you just handed all that profit and then some right back to the bank in interest. You're cannibalizing your own wealth to pay for the loan. You take all the risk of ownership and the bank keeps all the upside. And let's take that appreciation argument one step further, because this is the part that nobody talks about. Let's say the market does go up. You sell your house and it's a $400,000 house, and 7 years from now it's worth $500,000. You got $100,000 in profit, but here's the problem. You still have to buy another house. And guess what? That next house, well, it also, that you're going to go buy, it also went up $100,000. Your profit isn't completely profit. It's just the new higher cost of entry. It's a phantom profit. The only real money that you've gained is the actual principal that you paid down on a 50-year loan that is almost nothing. In that example, and that whole $400,000 note thing that we were just talking about at 6.5% interest, you're going to pay down in about 7 years. You're looking at, I don't know, maybe $10,000 or so off of the principal, versus a 30-year note is going to pay off about $25,000 more than that. Which I understand that sometimes what happens with this is this starts to feel a little bit like monopoly money, and we just start throwing all these giant numbers around. But $25,000 is $25,000. It's a lot of money. And so when you have that kind of a difference in there, I think that we start to lose the plot a little bit in just how big of a difference that we're actually talking about on something like that. And honestly, for a very small difference in payment, it's about $280 or so difference in payment. And in my opinion, if $280 makes or breaks your buying a home, whether you get a 30 or a 50-year note, you probably just don't need to buy a home. You're not talking about a whole lot of money there. Because here's the deal, if $280 makes or breaks whether or not you go from a 30 to a 50, what are you going to do when you have to buy a $10,000 HVAC unit? That's going to absolutely crush you. So this leads me to what I feel like is the big disconnect. Now, I know there are a lot of finance pros in the comments right now, and they're typing away, and they're going to talk about arbitrage and leveraging cheap debt. And on a spreadsheet, you might be right. The math might theoretically work out if the stars align for 50 years straight. But I don't live in a spreadsheet. I live in a house. I'm a paid-off home kind of guy. I'm old school. I believe there is more value in a paid-for house than there is in potential spreadsheet gymnastics. True homeownership isn't about leveraging ratio. It's about peace. It's about knowing that if I lose my job or get sick or the economy tanks, nobody can take this roof that's over my family's head. A 50-year mortgage is, in my opinion, the opposite of that. It's a treadmill. It keeps you running, keeps you paying, but you never actually get anywhere. It's a product designed for people who want to look like homeowners, not for people who want to actually be owners. So ultimately, I tried here. I've tried to play the devil's advocate. I really did. But that 50-year mortgage to me just fails the test. It doesn't fix affordability. It just kicks the can down the road for 2 generations and charges you double for the privilege. It's a financial trap, plain and simple. But maybe I'm just old-fashioned. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments.